with the combination of a live Massachusetts and a Q1 or 793B strain, what would be the onset of immunity and how long to expect the protection to last? And more, how many doses would you consider for broilers, layers, and breeders, for example?
Okay. Well, that's a lot of questions in one question, so I will. The onset of immunity, that's not very often. IB vaccines are tested for efficacy of onset of immunity after about 3 weeks after the vaccination. And that usually you find, after good application, full protection against the field strain. I'm convinced that the protection is earlier than 3 weeks. I'm quite sure it will already be at least at 2 weeks. But you cannot measure it, for example, at maybe 10 days, because after 10 days, there might still be some residual damage in the respiratory tract by the vaccine. So if you then challenge and you find some damage, you cannot see the difference between the residual, some damage of the vaccine or protection against the field strain. So I'm convinced for myself that you can have full protection within 2 weeks, but you will not find a lot of data about it because usually people test first after 3 weeks.
Okay.
And, for how long? Well, we have tested several vaccines with at least 6 weeks of high levels of protection, and quite often then the experiments stop. We have been tested sometimes at 8 weeks, still full protection. But yeah, in broilers, usually you don't test after 6 weeks anymore. So I'm not sure whether it will be 2 months or 3 months.
And do you think that this interval of 6 to 8 weeks might be also the recommendation for a laying period because of the stop checking the protection?
Well, this is if you go to check the literature for it, you will not find any answer because at least I tried to, I could find nothing. So this is based on field experience, and yeah, in my area, we vaccinate if we do it every 5-6 weeks, because by then we think that the protection of vaccines slowly starts to go down. So if you then boost it, you can increase it again. But I know in some areas you do it every 8 weeks, in some areas even every 4. So I guess the homologous protection will last longer than cross protection. If you have 100% before you go down, it might it's more robust. And if you have, let's say, 70% cross protection, I can imagine that this goes down earlier than with the high levels of protection. But okay, I have no data. So every 5-6 weeks gives me a good feeling. If you ask me for the facts, I don't have them.
No problem at all. We also don't have it.
No.
And just figure out, because sometimes you see this interval of 6 to 8 weeks, they consider this for Massachusetts type, but usually I'm talking about all the labs, usually for variant, they recommend for 3, no more than 4 or 5 times with the variant.
Yeah, that's if you look for IB, Massachusetts is just one of the variants of IB. It was just the first variant that we recognized. It's not special. It's not different from. It's not that variants are a special group and Massachusetts is an exception. No, it's just one of the many types. If somebody would come from the moon now and start typing IB, Massachusetts would not be the classical strain. It would be just one of the many variants. So for me, a variant vaccine or a classic vaccine, they are IB vaccine. No, it has been shown that if you if you use a Massachusetts vaccine, and a good application, and you revaccinate, they compare the revaccination after 5 weeks, 10 weeks, or 15 weeks. The longer you wait, the more boost you get.
Yes.
Because if you revaccinate with the same vaccine at the time there's a peak of protection, the vaccine cannot do a lot. If you wait until the protection goes down again, and then you go in, then you have a good replication, but there was also priming, so then your antibodies really go high. So certainly homologous vaccines, don't use them within 5-6 weeks after each other in the rearing. Try to separate them, then you get a better response. So more is not always better.
Yes, exactly. Thank you.